Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. I am Attorney Coral Pleas, and I am the host of the show, which is sponsored each and every week by Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Thank you so much to Columbia for sponsoring this show every week. We try to bring information to the community. I'm a lawyer, but we don't offer legal advice over the show. What we do is we are trying to educate and inform, and we like for people to call in with questions and comments for the show.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky this morning once again to have one of the directors from the board of directors of Columbia Savings and Loan Association, Dr. Mose Fuller, in the studio this morning. Doc Fuller, say hello to the people.
Good morning, Milwaukee. How's everyone doing? It's just good to be here again. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming. I love having you here. We like coming to you live every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. on WNOV,
Yep.
which is 860 a.m., 106.5 FM. And we're happy to be here.
Man, I've been listening to this station for a long time, boy.
Me too.
I came here in 1969, and I think I started listening to WNOV in the 70s. I think that's what it was. It's been a long time. I know that.
Right.
Been around. Yeah. Done a great work in this community, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely remember listening to WNOV through childhood years. For me, I think my greatest memories though are more from the 80s.
Yeah.
With some of the people that used to be on air back then. If I hear the names, I will recognize them. But that's what we used to do on Saturdays. Listen to WNOV.
Yeah, sure. WNOV is the place to be, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, here we are, and very, very happy to be here. I'm thankful to be here, and able to talk to the audience about anything that's money related. But you've been a part of a series that you and I kind of had going now, where we're talking about Columbia Savings and Loan Association.
Man. Now that's the institution that's been around 100 years.
Yes.
How many black institutions in this country that's been around that long? Probably not that many, huh?
No, probably not that many. From what I understand from research, Columbia is the sixth oldest black-owned bank in the country. So only 5 black banks older than Columbia in the whole United States.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
And then when we come, we talk about this every week. We come, we talk about the bank, talk about the necessity of the bank in the community, talk about the value that this bank adds to the community. I mean, that is just really it's a great thing. And when you think about it, it's kind of like mind-boggling, because I was looking at a little piece the other day, and they said about 10 to 11% of black folks are unbanked. They don't have any banking. They don't do any banking with anybody.
So that's interesting that there's even a word for it. Right. Unbanked.
That's
I never heard that until you said that last week.
Yeah, unbanked. That's just that's a word to use it.
Yeah.
And you see, I know it's true because some members in my church, elderly people, they didn't have banking accounts. They got a check every month, and they cashed their check at the check cashing place or at the liquor store. Can you imagine that?
No,
but that's what
not
happened
with the elders.
Elderly
Elderly people, because usually there's more wisdom there, right?
It's more wisdom now. But then you're talking about money. Then it decreases. The wisdom decreases when it comes to money, because like we said on last weekend, this is true in a lot of places in the black community, is that money is not talked about the way that it should. It's not looked at as something that is healthy and productive to talk about. But that's a big deal. Biblically speaking, I know money is talked about a lot. A lot of the main characters in the Bible, those guys was rich. Abraham, David, and all of those, they had money.
Solomon.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. Riches, all of them, they had money. And it was important because they believed in doing things the way God wanted it done.
Right.
And, you want to be a good steward over your resources.
Right.
The church, they talk about tithing and all of that. But that's what they're talking about, being a good steward over your resources.
Right.
If you can pay 10% of your tithes to the church, then you ought to be able to put away 10% of your money to yourself.
Right.
I'm gonna pay 10% to the church, and I do. then I should be able to do the same thing for me.
Right.
And then structure my life in such a way that I can live off of that 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't give my 10% to myself, which wouldn't make any sense, then I got to be able to make sure I can live off that 90%.
Right.
Right. It's important what you do with your money. And that's why we're talking about here is that, and the Halyards, they understood, they had to understand something about the whole gravity and the significance of money and what it played, the part that it played
mm-hmm.
in the progress of a people,
mm-hmm.
and the economic foundation that is necessary for people to be productive in a thriving city, Milwaukee,
right.
growing city. And then the Black population, when they came, wasn't that large. And then a growing, fledgling Black population that was
mm-hmm.
coming to Milwaukee. And it really wasn't an easy place to come to and make it,
mm-hmm.
but they had enough gumption and initiative to make some things happen.
Yeah. If I could get in a time machine and go back to then.
That would be interesting.
Wouldn't it though?
Oh, it would be
it would really be something to just be able to, be around for that, to experience it, how it was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, 100
Milwaukee,
years ago.
Yeah. I used to go to the museum and they used to take us to old Milwaukee and just walking down the street. You walk, in the section at the museum talking about old Milwaukee.
Yeah, I remember
and how
that.
things were, and so that's really interesting. And I think that, some of that nostalgia needs to, kind of like creep back into where we are now, because we need some stuff now to really to ground us where we can be more ready for the fight.
Right.
I always say on this program that I think, that I always, and I really believe this as a person that's been in this community from 1969, that every Black person in the city of Milwaukee that has access to money, some of that money should be in Columbia Savings and Loan. I really believe that. Yeah. I mean, that just make economic sense for this community. Understanding the historical ramifications of Milwaukee for the Black community.
Right.
It hadn't always been a pleasant place.
Yeah.
The struggle.
But you're one who puts your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, I have money there.
You're not just talking. You're not just saying that.
I have money.
You're actually walking it out.
Yeah, right. I have money there. I don't have all of it there, but I got some of it there.
Right, exactly.
And that's the only thing, and that makes sense. And one of the things that when you talk about Black banking is that a lot of times the smaller Black banks are smaller banks. And Columbia Savings and Loan is kind of like on an island. They don't have another, branch. Although that's our struggle, that's our intention, right? They have another. So we're out there, and so then, and sometimes you don't have all of the resources like the larger institution, but then you have some resources that sometimes unbanked people can use, or people that might be marginalized when it comes to banking, that you can help those individuals. And that's what the Halyards was thinking about when they started it. They saw a community that was, wanted to be a part of a banking community, wanted to have access to bank, wanted to have access to capital, buy homes or businesses or whatever, but they didn't have the other banks wouldn't work with them.
Right.
So you got good credit, but we just don't want to do banking with. And think about that. That never makes sense, does it?
Right.
That you got a customer that want to do business with you, but you don't want to do business with them.
Right. Well, and then, we talk about this all the time, but, eventually we turn that to our benefit. By establishing a Black-owned institution such as Columbia, and that built financial strength in the community.
Sure has, and I go back to when I started our church in 1993, and then went to Columbia in 1995. The helping hand that I received. Started the church in 93, went to Columbia in 1995, 93, 95. 2 years later, you had a president of the Black banks. Okay, do you have the down payment? Do you have this? Do you have that? Yeah, we got that. But okay, we're gonna take a chance with you.
Right.
Man, that's huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
And they got people out there right now that has been denied a loan because maybe they did, maybe they got their credit in place, but it's just something there. That institution say, we just not going. We're not going to take the chance on you. You know what I mean? You don't fit maybe in this one area, but it's not going to be anything that they can't make the payment.
Right.
It just might be some other psychological stuff that's going on in there. And that's why we talked about the psychology of banking and all that, psychology of money. That's important.
Right.
Really. How people view people that how banks view communities that they do business with.
Right.
They don't have the cultural understanding of that community, of that people, and so they really can't relate to them, and they don't relate to the way they might pay, or sometime, thing. I mean, all of that's important. All that's important.
Right.
It really is. See, I was brought up in the South in Mississippi, and I said before, black folks struggled in Mississippi and southern states, but one thing that we had this sense of community, togetherness. We knew where we stood. We knew who the enemy was, and that's important. To know the enemy, to know who you're fighting against, so to speak. And I think that we did that, because we understood the forces that was pressing us, coming up against us.
So how was it different? You talked about the sense of community when you were in the South. When you came to Milwaukee, I think you said 1969.
69.
How was it different when you got here, or was it?
Well, in the South, we could always, in the South, coming up, a lot of people didn't have cars and they had to walk to where they was walking to. And I remember a lot of times we had to do that. And we would be walking down the road, going away, I lived in the country. And so, people will stop and pick you up, man. Stop the truck. You hop on the back, sometime white or black, hop on the black, and then hop on the back of the truck. And then you get to the place you're going, hit on the top of the truck, the guy stop, you hop off, you go on. I mean, really, that's what it was. And but then
try that now.
Yeah, they wasn't doing that in Milwaukee. But that's the way it was. I'm talking about in the 60s.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm really, and so a lot of black folks from down south, they know that's true. And especially you're in a small town like I was, Camden, Mississippi, man. I think during that time we had about 5 stores, but it was it's a close community. The black community was really close. And then you could go to if you didn't have sugar, you didn't have flour, whatever you didn't have, if another black person had it, you could borrow it. I need a cup of this, I need a cup of that, and they would, hey, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we were together and they stuck together, and so that's what we're saying, talking about when we come in and talk about Columbia Savings and Loan, how this community need to rally around. Think about this one black financial institution in the city of Milwaukee with over 500,000 people, and a good 200-some thousand or more are black, are people of color.
That says a lot.
That says a whole lot. But that's where we are. So in essence, what I'm really saying is that you and I are having this conversation almost weekly. The conversation could be about the black bank, but it shouldn't be about whether people are really vested in it or have resources there or have money there. That shouldn't be the conversation. The conversation is, what's the next step to get that next one started? Right. Oh, we should, there's no question about it. It might not be as modernized as the other bank, but you know what? It come because of investment. It come because of core depositors.
Right.
That's how the growth come.
Well, that's why I like that we come together weekly and talk about these things, because, I'm an intelligent, educated person, but I took for granted too, because all my life I grew up in a city that had 2 black banks, Columbia and North Milwaukee, and eventually Legacy.
Yeah.
So
I remember those times too.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of took it for granted. There they are, and they're part of the society, and had a little money here to put my mortgage through one, put some money in another, and
Right.
and just really didn't give it too much thought. Didn't think about the importance of the organizations, or even maybe even some of the struggles that a Black-owned bank would face in this modern time, until the two others went away.
Yeah.
That's when it hit me that, whoa, what's going on here? Because North Milwaukee was an
It was
institution.
it was a big thing. It was
Absolutely.
a big deal, man.
Yes.
They had branches.
Yes.
They had a branch. I remember the branch that was at Marquette campus for a little while.
Right.
Then they had a branch, one of the branches here, and then had another one out there around Northridge.
Right.
I mean, it was an institution that meant a lot to this city.
Right. And, there were car loans, there were personal loans, there were mortgages, there were, all these different products that they were able to offer. I just thought that bank would never go away. It had been here my whole existence. I don't ever remember a time when it wasn't. So it's easy to take for granted when things are always there, always around, and you just don't, understand that it takes a lot to keep it going. It takes a lot to build it. It takes a lot to prosper it, more than you realize if you're standing on the outside, looking in. So I've learned that. I've definitely learned it.
Yeah. I was looking at something the other day and on the state of Black banking across our country. And they talk about, some Black banks are doing very well, to talk about the complete asset of Black banking in America, say from between 7 to almost $9 billion as a whole. But then in proportion to how rich the banking industry is in this country, it says here, Black-owned bank holds only 0.027% of America's estimated 23.6 trillion in total bank assets.
Wow.
I mean, so putting that in perspective and looking at what we're talking about here every week, if I was somebody that was listening, a young person that was listening to this program, or some grown person that would listen to the program, and they wanted to educate their children about the necessity of being wise with your money, having a vision about where you want your money to go. Just like we have a vision about our lives, of how we want to live, what kind of future we want to have. Well, your money is going to be tied up in that. You're going to have a vision. I want to go to school. I want to come out. I want to become a, attorney, which is going to take a lot of work. But then your money is going to be tied up in that.
Yeah.
It's going to take money to get there.
That's
and once
right.
you get out, you're still going to have money, going to know how to handle your money, how to invest your money, to leave something for your children, your grandchildren, whatever. Right. I mean, so that's important. So start those children to think about, depositing some of that money in a place where it can make money, but especially if you have a Black financial institution and you have one, and you have to think, if you only got one, there's got to be a reason why you only got one. And you have a city where you have almost 500,000 Black folks in this city. 3/4, whatever, over almost 300 to 400,000 Black folks in the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee got almost 600,000 people. A huge Black population living in this city.
Yeah.
When the Hellions came, it wasn't a large Black population. It was very minute. Imagine. It was small.
I wonder what the population was even then.
And I don't think I doubt it was 20,000.
Wow.
I know it wasn't.
So it's really grown.
It has grown. It really started growing in the 60s. 60s and 70s.
With different jobs.
And because they had a lot of factories here.
Right.
And Black folks had a huge amount of money, man. They worked at A.O. Smith, and they had American Motors, and they had Alice Chalmers, and they had the breweries, Schlitz, Pabst, Schultz, and all those other breweries, Miller. I mean, that was a big deal, and a lot of Black folks had jobs at those breweries. My
Right.
cousin did. I tried to get some jobs when I first came here. I tried to get a job at it passed, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, probably I was young, 18, and didn't know how to fill out the application correctly, probably. And
but
then you had Harley Davidson.
My parents had those jobs. Like my parents had, A.O. Smith and American Motors, had those jobs, and they migrated to Milwaukee from the South as well.
Yeah.
For those reasons, the opportunities were here, and it was just, but I think it was the 50s when they came.
Yeah.
They just, they waited longer than most people before having kids. My parents were married a good 15 years before I came along.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were migrated from the South, for the good paying jobs. And so it just allowed people to have access to money so that they could become homeowners, and everything that Columbia is there to support in the community.
Exactly. Now, and that was the vision of Columbia. I mean, that's where it got. That's why Columbia, listeners, that is why Columbia Saving and Loans was started, because of the necessity to provide finances to a very distressed community financially. Not because they didn't have money. Not because they didn't have money,
right?
But because they couldn't get access to money.
Mm-hmm.
They could not get access to money. I always say black people have money. Right now, they're saying like if you would just isolate the black population in this country, the GDP, the gross national product of black people in this country would be about $2.8 trillion. That's a whole lot of money.
That's a whole lot of cheese for us to sit there and say we're broke.
Right.
So we can't. No, we're not broke at all. Let's talk more about that when we come back. It looks like it's time for us to take a break, but we will be back with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral, and I've got Dr. Mose Fuller in the studio again this morning. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Money Talks with Attorney Coral, and I have Dr. Mose Fuller in the studio with me this morning. Say hello again to the people, Dr. Fuller.
Good morning, Milwaukee. How you doing today?
We're so happy to have you here. Dr. Fuller is on the board of directors for Columbia Savings and Loan Association, and we've been having a series where we've just been talking about Columbia Savings and Loan and the value of having a community bank, a Black-owned bank, the last one in the state of Wisconsin that we're honored to be associated with.
You know, the last one. You know, a lot of time with Black institutions like banking, and even when we talk about what is that in Black Wall Street, when that was destroyed, those institutions, they don't come back. And so a lot of time, Columbia been around 100 years. North Milwaukee State Bank is gone, extinct. It's not coming back. If they hadn't come, so it's gone, and so there's no talk of resurrection. Same thing with legacy. The people are still here. The Black population is still growing. So with Black institutions, that's usually the case. Is that once they cease to exist, then the regrowth is hardly ever there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is devastating within itself. So then, I guess we have to get into a position where we have to be able to revive good thing that was productive for us as a people.
That's right. That's right. So better to revive what's existing than to try to bring back to life what's already gone.
Right.
And what I understand from history, since you mentioned the, Black Wall Street, we talked about that before. We talked about this a lot on the show, and Tulsa and all of that. People lost their lives.
Yeah, I mean, big time.
Just trying to be self-sufficient and independent with their own community.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a thing to die for. At least in this day and age, that's not typically what happens. I won't say never, because, it's a crazy world, but it's just very fortunate that we have this institution in our community, and that it seems as though, it's being embraced by yet another generation of people. The strong leadership at the helm of the bank right now, that's next generation leadership. So, hoping that those are the things that are going to help to continue to prosper this bank and to move it forward for another 100 years.
Yeah. And that's important. You talk about young people, and that the young people in this community are going to be the one that's going to provide that next generation leadership. Our bank president, a young man in his 40s, very strong, smart, articulate, got the energy, has the will, hardworking.
Very, yep.
Hardworking. Same thing with the staff that you've been a part of bringing on to the bank. I mean, young people, hardworking. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
I've sat back and looked at what has happened at the bank over the last year, 6 months to a year. It's simply been amazing. And I always say this, and it's attributed to your hard work. You as since you've been at that bank, I've watched you work hard. I mean, I'm a hard worker too, but man, anybody come from the South and work, I used to work in the field, so we know what hard work is.
Yeah, when you see it.
Yeah, I know hard work. And so, and then, I've watched you guys, and I watched the president. I mean, the stuff that he had to, to go to, and he never wanted the job. He never wanted to be. I mean, he never wanted to be the president of Columbia Savings and Loan.
Yeah.
And his John, he didn't ask for the job.
No, he just wanted to be behind the scenes.
Yeah, he wanted to be on the board. We kept on the board at the same time.
Yep.
That's all.
Behind the scenes, just helping to guide the institution in the right direction. He didn't do it for the clout. He didn't do it for the title. He didn't do it for the accolades. And it's hard work, but he's hardworking.
Yeah.
So that, it just, we're fortunate. We're very, very fortunate to have him at the helm of the ship.
Unfortunate for him, he came along. Unfortunate for the president, he came along during a time that God had put in place for the bank to be transitioned.
Right.
And sometimes that's just the way it is. In leadership, that's the way it is. You don't know when in leadership, you God prepare you for the role. I mean, you don't have to have everything, don't have to be perfect, but psychologically, he's prepared you for the role. It's kind of like Moses. Moses was prepared for the role. David was prepared for the role. Abraham. And they didn't have everything in place. They didn't know how to, they didn't know what they was going to run into. A lot of time they were just leading, going because God said go.
Right.
Or they were just going because they was in the position. Abraham, God said, you leave your country. Where am I going? Just go.
Right.
God asked Moses, I want you to lead the people. He said, Moses, I can't talk. I can't lead. Get somebody else. He said, no, I want you to go.
Right.
Now I teach you on the way. Matter of fact, I'm going to get you some help.
Yes.
And he got him to help.
Right.
Every time Moses said, well, I can't talk. Well, your brother can talk. Well, then who made your mouth? And so that's the way it was with him. And so he and I came, the president and I came on the board together.
Yeah.
He's younger. I've been around the bank for a long time and had, a relationship with the bank, with the last president. When time came for him to be in that position, I said, hey, man, you didn't ask for it. What I'm telling you right now, and I think that I have wisdom too, is that you're here because God really wants you here.
Right.
And then not only that, you might not have all the banking experience, but that you think you need. But here's the thing about it. You've been working in banking behind the scene.
Right.
You know about banking, regulations. And not only that, you've been around when you've had other black banks to go out of operation, to quit operating. So you know how this internal stuff works. So then, to me, you're the perfect candidate.
Right.
You really are.
Nope, that's exactly right.
And the other thing is, you didn't ask for the job. People that's got here asking for stuff, they might not be the perfect guy. Somebody that's trying to run away.
Right.
Right. Like Moses, he was the greatest leader that ever led the people of Israel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing with David.
Yep.
One of Israel's greatest leaders. And he was a guy David was a guy that was least expected to lead. Matter of fact, Samuel had looked at all of, Jesse's son. Jesse was David's dad.
Yeah.
And that when he went to anoint the king and all of the guys came around, the tall, good-looking brother of David, he said, that's the one. God said, that ain't the one.
Right. And wasn't David like the youngest?
Yeah, he was out there herding the sheep in the field.
Yeah, the unlikely.
Unlikely character, man, the youngest one. He was the one that nobody would have picked.
Right.
But God.
Well, see, but God.
And so, the Halliers, I think it was Audie, when she said that Columbia Savings and Loan has been about more faith than finances. And faith is a thing that really gets you over. It said, faith without works is dead. The Bible said that in James, the 2nd chapter. So here, Audie and them, they were working. They had faith, and watch it, and they were working. And they had a vision, and they had a mission, all going together and trusting on God to make something happen. And that's what he did. That's why you have this bank around this long. And then in a transition period, and then God brings in another young leader, and in an institution that's moving forward, there's always a transition period. Right. Transition period where the older generation, you've been there 50 years, whatever, 30 years, then you got to move on. The same thing with the older leaders in the Bible. They had to make some transition. Moses got old, and God said, it's your time to go.
Right.
You're going to die, and then you go.
And then Joshua.
Joshua came along.
Yeah.
And Joshua's time in it. And so that's what happened with Columbia Savings Loan. But he's telling a young man a reluctant.
I know I keep laughing, but no, that's exactly how I have referred to him.
As a reluctant leader.
Mhm.
And great institutions that thrive, usually have reluctant leaders that come
Mhm.
in and has the fighting power, the will to make an institution move and put up with enough stuff that's going to be thrown at you.
Right.
People going to run you down, talk
Yeah.
your name down, malign you.
Yeah.
That's the business of the devil, to
Mhm.
undermine you,
Mhm.
to talk about you ain't doing nothing. The bank
Mhm.
ain't struck. The bank ain't. Yeah, the bank is making it.
Yeah. And
You
people
know.
don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why they try to say, hurtful things, or
Right.
to try to be belittling, and all the different things, smear campaigns and
Mm-hmm.
gossip and all these things that go. But Colombia has withstood that, and the current leadership and the current board and the current staff, we have withstood all of that, to the point now where some of the people that were having negative things to say have come all the way full circle back around, and now they
Sure.
want to be a part of things again. And we are, and the door's open.
Doors open.
Yeah,
Doors
we
open.
we want we want the whole community to rally around in support of this bank. So that's what we stand for. No, we don't ever look back. We don't stay offended
Right.
about things. We know who we are. We know what we're doing. We know why we're doing it. And we want to see the future of this bank, and to continue to prosper and move in the right direction. And so it's just an exciting time to be on board.
It really is very exciting times for this bank to be in the community. You know, growing community. Uh, you know, uh, educated community where young people that need a start, need access, need to get financial education. How to handle your money. What to do with your money. Developing a relationship with your money. Columbia Savings and Loan is that institution. It really is. But this
Mhm.
community. We
Mhm.
talked about other institutions in this community that are closing, leaving, pharmacies, Walgreens, food
I was
stores,
gonna say pick and
pick and
save.
save. Yeah, that left a big food desert. It's a blight, and it's really a ugly sore in the heart of the inner city. If there is any place in this city where it need to have a store, a big store like that was there,
Yeah.
it's that area. It is that area. I worked on the fire department, and I worked in that area the late 70s and early 80s.
Mhm.
I worked at the Engine 13, the firehouse on 30th and Locust, and we was in that area all the time. The busiest firehouse. You're doing the 70s and 80s, and it's still that way.
Mhm.
And a densely populated community, but the things that type of community really needs, seem to not be there. And it was a great store. And it was a reason why they put that store there,
Absolutely.
because it was a food desert.
Right. I remember when that store opened
Yeah,
there. I do remember that. And I remember thinking, finally,
finally.
like, why wasn't this even before now?
Yeah.
And I thought, because anytime I'd ever been in that store, they were very busy.
Oh, and you know what? You look at that structure now, it's a huge store.
Yes.
It is really, it's a huge, that store was very valuable to the
Hmm.
community, just like Columbia Savings and Loan is now. Think about it. Think about if Columbia Savings and Loan was not here. I mean, the whole that thought or that idea would leave in this community. I mean, Milwaukee, almost 400,000 black folks in the city. You don't even have one black bank. One black bank.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost nonsensical.
Right.
It don't have no logic to it. No logic whatsoever.
Right.
Just like not having a store on 35th and North absolutely don't make any sense.
Right.
You know, and so leadership in the city, automatic leadership, and all that stuff have to be able to look at that because all those people are not being served. Now there's a food desert there. Now they're looking. See, when you have banks, healthy banks, when you have an unbanked community like what we have in that area, it's an unbanked community. Columbia Savings and Loan is basically, you know, is that stable institution, that community, that's making the difference.
Right.
But you don't have a lot of banks around in that community. You have a few, but they're not really. You can have a bank in the community and it really don't be vested in that community. It don't have no real history, no real input in the community.
Right.
Columbia does.
Just a small branch of some larger institution.
That's there.
Yeah, that happens to be there. Yeah.
But don't have no real investment.
Right. Unlike Columbia.
Yeah. It's kind of like you see that a lot when just like when they had the riots back here a few years ago up on 37th and right up just west of 35th and Burleigh, Fond du Lac.
Yes.
When the bank over there in the big building where the Phoenix is now. Right. There used to be a bank in there, and that burned, and then so they got rid of the bank and they moved it right across the street. Right. Of course they just put something small over there. They would say we're not really abandoning the community, but that's really not vested in the community. Right. It's not. I mean, it's one thing. It's too small, and then they do, and they have a whole lot of black folks in that area. That whole area around there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I remember because I know that there's a gas station over there on Sherman and. Is it
the one that burned down?
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
And then they rebuilt, and thankfully, and I know the owner pretty well, and I was talking to him and I asked him, and he said, well, one thing's for sure, they sell grocery items in there, and that there are people in the neighborhood who come and they would say to him, we're glad that you rebuilt, we're glad that you're still here because I don't have a car and I can't get to, the larger grocery stores, but I can come here and I can buy some bread and I can get some milk and I can get some, whatever items, just household items in order to get a meal on the table. And, and I've seen him do this. Sometimes, especially if the young kids come in, and he'll have, whatever hot dogs or whatever they sometimes have at those types of gas stations. And he'll just tell the kids, just here, you have a hot dog, you have a free one, you have, this, and, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know the story. Maybe these kids have food at home, but maybe they didn't. And this is an opportunity for for a business to reestablish and be of some benefit to the community. But if I'm going all the way back around to this whole pick and save thing, because I know we keep talking about that, but it's like a kick in the gut for that store to not be there anymore. But that just goes to show why a grocery store like that is so needed in that area.
Oh, you need it.
Yes.
I mean, you can pass by it and you can think about the psychological ramifications for that community.
Yeah. It hurts me, and I happen to not live around there, but I drive through and just feel sick about it.
Yeah. And in those areas, they use the term, underprivileged poor people live there, and things like that. But people have money and they have value. Did you have that?
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it after the break. It looks like it is time for us to take a commercial break, but we will be right back with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral and Dr. Mose Fuller. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you for rejoining us. If you've been listening this morning, I've had Dr. Mose Fuller from Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Dr. Fuller has been on the board of directors for about 6 years now.
Yep,
Is it, Doc?
6 years.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good solid run. So you've got a good feel and a good command of what goes on there. And with those of us affiliated with the bank, really appreciate you. And
Yeah,
you mentioned wisdom earlier, and that's absolutely the case.
yeah,
So we all come together, and everybody involved is bringing something special to the
to the table.
table. And so, yeah, we really, really do thank you for all your time and effort that you put in, and even the fact that I can call you up and you come and just do a series of shows,
Yeah,
with me here to talk about Columbia, because who better to talk about Columbia than you?
I've been on the boards, 6 years, but I've been affiliated with the bank. Got a history with Columbia Savings and Loan since
Right, since the 90s.
1995.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
that's 30 years.
Wow. That feels like yesterday,
Well, it's
but
30
yes, I
years.
guess that has been 30 years.
And so here's my point. See, before I was affiliated in 1995, I really didn't know anything about Columbia Savings.
Mm-hmm.
And Columbia Savings and Loan had did that project over there on the Halyard, those nice houses over there on
Like Halyard Park, that
around the
area.
502 Club and places like that.
Yes,
Columbia
yes.
did that.
Wow.
That was visionary. I talked to the president about that, George Gary about that.
Yes.
And a lot of banks didn't want to touch that, but he took the chance. He stepped out on faith, and God honored it.
There
So
we
look
go.
at those nice houses over there now, man.
Mhm.
They just think of things like that was all around the city.
Right.
You can bring nice homes into an area where everybody else is saying is not going to be about anything,
Right.
and do some really constructive things. And that's what Columbia did.
Right.
So that's the history,
And those are beautiful
homes.
Beautiful homes.
Columbia Savings and Loan financed all of them.
Wow.
And I had an opportunity, and I was talking to my wife the other day. I said, I really hate that I didn't buy one of these houses here in the 80s. I just had started on fire department. That would have been an excellent time to buy one of those houses. But, maybe I didn't have a big enough vision.
Well,
and so, hey,
yeah.
But anyway, it's just nice homes over there. Columbia part of Savings and Loan part of that. I was looking at something here, and they were talking about the founding vision and mission of Wilbur Halyard and Artie Halyard.
Yes.
I just like to read a little portion of that.
Please.
It says here, talking about Artie and Wilbur, it says here, Wilbur and Artie, it said their mission was clear. Their mission was very clear. They came here, they scoped it out, they looked at the community, they surveyed the landscape, and they said their mission was clear. It was clear to dismantle the barriers to financial services and home ownership faced by African Americans, thereby fostering financial stability and improved living condition within the Black community.
Well, there you have it.
And that's it. That's what we need today, man. And that same vision. They have people with the same struggles that they were dealing with, that they came here to dismantle. It hadn't gone away.
Right.
Just became bigger.
Well, and it sounds like faith has been the driving force back then when they were going with it. And with what you just mentioned a moment ago with Mr. Gary and the Halyard Park project,
right,
that was faith driven.
Faith.
And we have said countless times with what we're doing now that with under our current leadership, it's a faith move every day.
It's a faith move every day. And really, I mean, the leadership today is really structured to make it happen. Really make it happen.
Absolutely.
Make it happen. And it's structured to make it happen. Our community to get behind us. And they are, and we can do more things quicker.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Well, and we've got such a great team of people. I want to take a moment to
and they're doing a
acknowledge,
great job.
yeah, that they're at the branch right now. I don't know if they're listening right now. Sometimes they'll be able to turn the show on, and other times they're working so hard that, taking care of our customers and doing what needs to be done that they don't always have a chance to listen in. But if they are, I want to acknowledge Latoya Sykes, who is our branch manager, who works hard. And even with me, with my crazy schedule, that sometimes I'm there late at night and she won't leave until I go out that door with her.
Yeah.
you know and just, there's safety in numbers, and so we look out for one another. She could slap me a high five and be out the door at 5 o'clock, but she just would never do that.
Yeah.
Just wonderful support. And we have Jamila Jones, who, along with Yumika Miller, are working hard in the Teller area. We have Louise Rosa, who is helping us as a loan officer with the bank right now. So everybody's hard at work. That's who I left there today when I came here. Everybody's hard at work doing what they're doing. Oh, and I should also mention Latanza Parnell, because she was in this morning too. She's the
Was.
accountant
Okay.
that's doing providing some services for us as well. So, and I'll always acknowledging the board, you, Dr. Fuller, the chair of the board, Ernest Jones, who's the president and CEO of the bank that we've been talking about this morning, and Steve Moore, one of the directors. And we're onboarding a new director, so I'm going to wait until that process is complete before I mention any names in that regard. But we're a great team of people working very hard for Columbia Savings and Loan Association. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Another great show, Dr. Fuller. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to next week at 11 a.m. More Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Looking forward to hearing from everyone there.